businesses. In Austin, you told me a story about how they strapped on napalm bombs onto the dive bombers, and they had affixed some sort of wooden fin system that was preventing the flaps from fully extending. And how...
Well, that was an incident on the carrier. The folks directing the aircraft on your carrier deck at first were not very experienced with the Corsair, which, like all fighter planes that I know of, had flaps that came down to help you take off on a short distance. And someone decided we would use a napalm, which is a firebomb, and instead of putting a gasoline tank on the center portion of the fuselage, they put these firebombs there, and when the flaps came down, one would come down not all the way and the other one did. It made a very precarious takeoff situation. In fact, if you had a short deck to take off from, you went in the water, then that bomb exploded when you hit the water. We lost quite a few before they figured out what to do about it, but they did. I lost some good friends that way.
Yes, sir. I thought it was interesting, after your missions, how you would find the boat again. If you would enlighten this crowd on how precise of a method you guys used to recover back aboard Mom.
In flight training, we learned to navigate an airplane with one pilot, either for a dive bomber or a fighter pilot, by using a chartboard. And when we were getting ready to take off from the carrier, we would plot the position of the carrier on that chartboard. In those days, we had no electronics that were available to find the carrier after we took off. And that became very interesting when you were 1,000 miles from anywhere, or you didn't want to land in enemy territory, was to find that carrier when you got through with your mission. And oftentimes the carrier was not where they said they were going to be. They had to maneuver in another way. So we did what we called a square search. Very simple affair for us simple fellows flying. You fly one direction for 15 minutes. You do a 90-degree turn to the left or right, and you start doing a square and expanding the square each time you went around. And sure enough, you'd find them most of the time. I was with a squadron in peacetime. The whole squadron got lost, and I was the division leader. And our leader had not learned the lessons of navigation, so he asked me if I could find the carrier. It took an hour, but that's all the fuel we had. And sure enough, I found it during the square search. We now have electronics where you know where everybody is all the time. But that was a long time ago, folks. Yes, sir.
On May 11th of 1945, you had been grounded for doing your job too well. Could you talk to us about that day and the impact it has had for the rest of your Marine career?
I was stationed on the USS Bunker Hill, which was the largest of the carriers that we had out there. And that was the one that was kamikaze. Believe it or not, we had a flight officer who was so jealous of the fact that his competitors, the other pilots, would run into a fight and he couldn't. He just couldn't shoot down an airplane because he wasn't there at the right time at the right place. Well, I had quite a bit of luck. I shot down 15, but I was only credited with, the Marine Corps credited me with 10, that's all. This guy, the flight officer, grounded me and made me the duty officer for 1 week. He said, give me a chance. Well, I was a duty officer when the kamikaze hit. I was 3 decks down. We had just secured from general quarters where everyone had to wear a gas mask during general quarters, which was preparing for combat or an attack. So the ship immediately filled full of smoke because the large ventilators of that day, since we had no air conditioning, pulled all the smoke from the shattered aircraft and oil tanks and whatever, pulled all that smoke into the ship's interior immediately. Figures have been used on how many deaths there were. For me to get out, I crawled on my hands and knees for 5 minutes with my gas mask on because I had not taken it off. And I crawled over bodies to get to fresh air. We lost over 800. The Navy likes to say 372. Is that what you wanted?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the part about emerging, getting out from the below the decks, when you were struggling up the ladder, if you could explain to the crowd how you actually got up onto the flight deck.
I could do that. It's kind of a long story. I was actually in the officers' mess having a cup of coffee, which is 3 decks below the flight deck, because we had secured from general quarters. When the 2 kamikazes hit us, it was just 2 huge explosions. Everything went black. So I had my wingman with me, by the way. He was also grounded. We got on our hands and knees and we crawled on the floor, feeling our way until we found the door of the mess hall. By that time, the aisle was full of bodies. We had to climb up over them. And we continued crawling until we found a ladder that went up to the next deck. We got to the top of the ladder. Somebody had closed the door to that hallway and bolted it down. That was some of the fire control, I think. I found a metal battle lantern hanging on the wall. Mind you, I couldn't see, just feeling. And I started banging on that door. It was a steel door. And I thought we were gone because everybody behind me was dead. By the grace of God, somebody heard the banging and opened it. And I and my wingman escaped. Everybody else remained down there. We were very lucky. The good Lord had watched over me ever since I was a little kid, so I know that.
Yeah, we talked about your great guardian angels you've got on your shoulders, sir.
Say again?
We talked about your guardian angels you've got on your shoulders.
I have had a guardian angel. I've had my crashes and bailouts, but I survived. And there's only one way that could happen, is to have a guardian angel. And I can say to anybody here, Muslim, Jewish, whoever, it helps a lot to believe in God. But you really don't realize it until you get older and have experiences like that. And it helps to know that somebody's behind you.
Sir. We talked in Austin about what this extreme level of violence will do to you, and it was about the time when you were headed to Corpus to replace a couple slots on the Blue Angels team. You mentioned to me how callous you felt you'd gotten, and after your experiences in World War II. You could talk to us a little bit about that.
Say that again.
Sir, you talked to us about how callous you felt you had gotten towards the value of human life when you had to go down to Corpus and replace a member on the Blue Angels team.
Well, I had forgotten I had told you that. This gentleman visited me and my wife in our home to tell me all about you folks. And he did a good job. But I did tell him something I rarely have mentioned to anybody. Flying from 1941 until 1954, that's 2 wars, I became so callous that I'd lost all my friends, all of them. That our squadron 221, we lost 16 pilots out of that group of 30. Korean War lost everybody that ever got airborne, it seemed like. And I felt it very severely. Yet I still had a job to do. So by that time, my mentality was not the old boy Caswell was. It was something else. Actually, a dangerous mental condition. I didn't give a you-know-what about anything, which is a terrible way to live. And that's when I joined the Blue Angels. Well, a member of that outfit, which was a good one, I was hit by a drunk driver and I spent a year and a half in the hospital. This leg was torn off completely. I had a chance to recover. I thought about it a whole lot. I had to do something to me while I was hopefully getting well, and it worked. Mind control, if you want to call it that. To believe in people again and not be so callous about life. And combat will do that to you. And we see young people now coming back from battle that don't recover from that right away. So it's something to be dealt with if you're still alive. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Over the course of 3 wars, could you talk to us a little bit from your experience how the way we fight from the air changed over those 3 wars? How the way we fought the war in the air over those 3 wars changed for the better or worse?
Well, it changed drastically. World War I, of course, the dogfighting started, and that's where that word came from. In World War II, we were still dogfighting. It was one-on-one, and the best man won, at least we think so. Once we moved into the jet age, our maneuvering took on the aspects of covering a large amount of airspace. Rather than one-on-one, you could fire from a long distance away with a missile. And by Vietnam, you could be 20 miles from your victim and you can still pop him. I enjoyed the F-8 Crusader because it changed the dogfighting, if you want to use that term for that, into vertical combat. You could go up, you could go down, where in World War I and World War II, it was all horizontal. Does that answer that
yes,
question?
Sir. Thank you.
Okay. I still haven't figured out which was up or down, but that's all right.
Of all the aircraft that you have flown, what's been your favorite? Your favorite aircraft that you've flown, sir?
Bad question. With civilian aircraft and military, I've flown with 56 different kinds of airplanes. About 10,000 hours worth. Each airplane is designed to do a specific job in most cases. Certainly in the military, that's true. So it's very difficult to compare one to the other. Actually, I like the old biplane made by Boeing, the N2S. We called it the Yellow Peril. I liked them all. Some of them scared me to death, but that's all right.
So your dedication to your country is moving, but your dedication to your family is more so. Could you speak to what your family has meant to you to last 30-year career in the United States Marine Corps?
Now you're getting real personal. I had a very, very fine career in the Marine Corps. And it was fraught with all kinds of fears and danger. I guess you could say I enjoyed most of it. I sometimes wondered in later years why I had been spared in the manner that I did, because most of the people that I knew and really liked, they didn't make it. And some of them, of course, died early from just old age. But I think I figured it out. The good Lord wanted me here to raise my family. I had 7 children. I lost one. I lost my wife. But that family is the reason I'm still here today, because I think I'm here for them, to be with them and help them where I can. I found out very early that I tried to teach them a lot of things that by the time they were 11 years old, they thought they were grown up. Does that answer that? It's a very poor question.
Yes, sir. See if I can come up with some other bad ones. How about this? So, this group, in very short time, will go off to lead airmen, soldiers, sailors, and Marines. Do you have any leadership advice for them to do a good job?
I guess a very simple one. Believe in your country. Defend your country, regardless of politics. Let's follow that Constitution. And with that kind of guidance, I think things will turn out pretty good. Not without a fight. Believe in yourself. Bring the good Lord into it if you'd like. Work hard. Be trustworthy. You can go back to the Boy Scout oath if you want to. There's nothing easy. And believe in your fellow man. That's what I saw yesterday. These young people that aspired to be officers. That was thrilling to me. I like that. Young people headed in the right direction. You've really got something here, folks. I'm impressed. Don't screw it up.
I think we're impressed with you, sir. More so. Is there anything else you'd like to share with this group today?
Say again?
Is there anything else you'd like to share with this group today?
Just keep at it, folks. You'll get there. One foot in front of the other. When you fall down, you get up and do it again. Believe in God. Thank you very much.